Welcome to TimeBender Talks, the ultimate destination for professional photographers. This weekly podcast is hosted by Peggy McCartha, a certified professional photographer with over 30 years experience and the creator of the Headshot Strategist certification program. Peggy interviews a diverse range of experts in business, branding, marketing, networking, and photography. So whether you've been doing this for years or you're just starting out, we've got you covered. Oh, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on our latest episodes filled with tips, insights, and lots of fun.
Yay! We are here today with my friend Colleen Strube, and our theme of the month is working wise, and today's topic is networking. And Colleen is like the fall in love with follow-up queen goddess. So we are going to have fun today talking about that. Colleen, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us like who you are and where you are on your journey?
Sure. Thanks, Peggy, for having me. I'm Colleen Strube, as Peggy mentioned. I live on the East Coast in Maryland, so of the USA here. And I've been doing this follow-up stuff and connecting for 20 plus years. And it's really the stuff that feeds my heart, right? It's like I love connecting with other people, connecting them to other people and resources that they need to really help them grow their business.
I think that for me, like I love to be that person that knows a guy. You know what I mean?
I got a guy.
I got a guy. Before the internet, before like I used to have a pegboard in like a cork board in my studio, and people would put their business cards, on it. And then when people would come in, they would say, "Oh, I'm looking," I'd be like, "Oh, one of my clients does this. One of my clients does this." And over the years, people would call me, "Hey, do you know a roofer? Hey, do you know a plumber?" And it's just cool that like I'm still on their mind, even if it's not for photographs, like they still know like I have value, whether it's, what I need, they're not going to forget me, I guess is the cool thing about that.
Yes, just staying top of mind, right?
Yeah,
So, and
like
being the solution person so that, somebody has an issue or a problem, they know that you're that resource person you can go to. So,
and I think that makes me, it adds to the experience. It's like, oh, I know Peggy, she'll know someone.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Oh, it's
I
definitely value add, right? It's like
yeah.
why, that's why they're going to choose you over the next person is because you can bring so much more value.
Yeah. So why are you like passionate about helping people with their networking and helping them grow their businesses? Like, what is it that you love about it?
Yeah, I've been networking, like I said, 20 plus years, and I kind of fell into it. I was, an IT, director. I was running an IT department, but I knew I wanted to do something else. And I had already started doing a little side gig, like most people, right? You start the side gig, but it's like, I need more clients. And how do I get them? And the best way is, getting out there, networking, being that one-to-one, used to call it belly to belly when we were doing it in person, right? So it was just so I went to a meeting and I came out and I loved it, and I'm like, oh, I want to go back. And it just was like, oh, okay, now I got to do more, and I'm helping, and I just found the knack, and I actually realized, looking back, is like I've always done this, right? I've always been that connector person to be able to connect two different groups of people. And I just find it's the best way for you to get the word out about your business is that one-to-one, referral marketing, word of mouth. It's one of the best ways, at least, to build a relationship. It depends on like your business. Like some businesses, it's great to have couponing and all that kind of stuff because that's their business. But I think like for photographers, other people that are in the thing, that it's really about getting to know you, getting to know that like trust factor of it. And so that's why I choose networking. I just have fun doing it.
It's fun, right? So you said you started out in the corporate world. When did you realize that you could take your passion of networking and actually make that into a career? Like, what was the events that kind of made that all kind of fall into place for you?
It really was. I kind of got thrown into it, in the circumstances like a lot of people. I was working for a manufacturing company. They got bought out by 3M, and I chose not to move to Nebraska or Minnesota. So, and so then I was working for another IT company, and then when 9/11 happened, the IT industry, especially in the DC metro area where I am, kind of imploded, because the day, on Monday, I could do the job. On Wednesday, I needed a security clearance to do the same job. And and the company I was working for was kind of teetering anyway. And they basically went, out of business. So you get laid off, right? So then what do you do? It's like you're out there, you're overqualified for all the stuff that you're trying to interview for. And it's like, okay, well, let me try to start my own thing. So I wasn't like some people like are in corporate, and I tell people, you're in corporate, use that corporate job as your venture capital for your business. So like if you're, a photographer, you're just starting out, you still have the 9 to 5, that's great because you can use that income to help support you as you're growing your business. I kind of got thrown into it. So that's what it was. And mine, because I had the flexibility, I had a chance to do things that other people couldn't do that didn't have that flexibility. So I was able to sub at a lot of different groups. I was able to meet lots of people, and that just kind of grew. So now I know thousands, tens of thousands, I don't know, maybe hundreds of thousands of people that I wouldn't have known if I didn't take that path.
That's interesting. So I feel like a lot of people start in a corporate kind of a job, a 9 to 5 job, and then they're just not fulfilled. And so they're like, you know what, I'm going to follow my passion. My experience was a little bit different. Maybe it's unique, maybe it's not. But I've never done anything but be a professional photographer. As a kid, I said when I grow up, I want to be a professional photographer and a mom. Those were my, like, whenever anybody asked me, and I stuck with that. Now, I did have a couple of little like side hustles, when I was maybe when I moved to a new city and I hadn't built up clientele yet or things like that. I did some telemarketing, which clearly was not my cup of tea, was not anything that I was ever at more than 3 or 4 months because, whew. But, there are people out there that actually are in a job they hate. And then they're just, doing this, photography or whatever their passion is on the side. And I think that, and again, because I came, even if it is tough, I think that the freedom that you feel when you get to do something that you're actually like in love with and you're passionate about, is going to kind of help carry you through that. And, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, and when you find a group of people, that you can do it with, right? It's like
Hmm.
nowadays, I mean, in the past, I guess it was maybe a little bit harder to really, start your own business and things like that because there weren't the support systems out there. Now there's a lot of people who can like really walk it with you, and we can share knowledge. I love like connecting with someone and going, oh, you know how to do that? I need to learn how to do that. Can you show me? And then I'll show you this that I know that you need to learn. So I love that about the entrepreneurial journey and the fact that you can do it with other people. You don't have to be out there all by yourself, right? You can learn from my 20 years experience, your, 20, however, experience, right? So people can learn from other people. And then it's like a change of a mindset. Like you were saying, they might be stuck in this corporate job that they're like, oh, I don't want to do this. And I'm like, if you change the mindset of, hey, I'm doing this to build my venture, think of it as a venture capital for my business, then it takes a whole new, you're like, oh, cool, let me go get that job done so I can go work on the other job versus dreading going and then doing it. So.
Exactly. So we're talking about networking. So why do you think that it is so important for photographers to understand how to network if they want to have a thriving photography business?
Yeah, I mean, I see some photographers out there networking, but not as many as you would think. So I think that's one of the things. I don't think they realize that it can be a gold mine of opportunities to go out and network and, build relationships with different types of people that can really excel your business, right? So I think some people just rely on other ways of marketing. I mean, word of mouth is great, and then that's where it comes, but you need to build that up some. And I think if you look at a networking group and meet 20 new people, somebody in there is going to know somebody who can help you, or have that, that person's getting married, or you could do realtor shots. There's so many photographers who shoot for realtors or restaurants and shoot food and different things. There's so many different facets that you can find when you go networking, and then it's just a matter of understanding when you're there and how to do it and stuff. So
Yeah, I think the how to do it is something that we need to talk about, because I think some people hear networking and they think about like a breakfast or a luncheon, and they think that they are there to give their 1 minute pitch and hopefully the other people there are going to hire them. But that's not really what networking is about.
right.
It's about building relationships. I mean, you may never be my client, but you may send 20 people to me.
Right. Yeah, it's all about who do they know, right?
Mhm.
And when I network, and this was something I was always doing, like when I go to a networking, I'm probably not the person who's going to buy your service. I mean, I do a lot, but normally I think about it from a strategic connection or a strategic partnership. So I think about like, who's that person I can introduce you to that's going to introduce you to a lot of people. So, instead of giving you maybe one realtor, I'm going to give you the name of the brokerage, which has 20 or 30 realtors with them. And think about, instead of just one person who's getting married, think about who's the event planner, right? So that you can go and talk to them and
Mhm.
they can support you, because they're, when someone starts and, if you go to an event, venue, they're going to be giving out like, here's our recommendations of
Mhm.
here's four or five, people, you can pick it. You want to be one of those 4 or 5, right? So
Mhm.
you need to build the relationship with that venue person, right? To be able to do it. So yeah, it's not, yes, building the relationships with the people in the room will eventually lead to sales, right?
Exactly.
It's not your primary goal when you walk into the room for the first time, right? Your
Right.
primary goal is to find out who's in the room, build a connection with somebody who's in the room, and not everyone in the room. That's the other thing I think people do when they go to networking. They're like, oh my God, I have to hand my card out to every single person. And you don't, right? I'm like, find, especially, find those 3 to 5 people that are those strategic people that you think you want to build a relationship with, and connect with them. Try to have a little bit more of a conversation so they'll remember you, right? It's like,
Mhm.
you've probably gone, to networking events and you walk in, there's 20 people in the room and somebody comes around and just hands their card out to you and you're like, oh, hi. And they're like, oh, hi. And they're off, right? It's like, you don't even really understand. Oh, I do this. I, support something I do, and then they're like, oh, okay. And they're off, right? And then you get home or the next day you're looking at the card going, did I even meet
Who
that
is
person?
this?
Do I know who
Yeah.
that is? So it's, so it doesn't do you any good just to get all of those, connections. It's a matter of like working to build that relationship, ongoing, right? It's not just going to be, okay, today I met them today. I'm going to, send them an email or a card or, a text. And then tomorrow we're going to meet and they're going to buy and they're going to, it doesn't normally work that way. I mean, I have people that I've been connected with for years, networking, and then they finally buy your product and they're like, oh, why did I wait so long? I'm like, I've been saying that, but
I don't know why you waited so long.
I don't know. I kept kind of hitting that it was the time that you should do this, but and they do. But that's because I've had people say, "Oh, I went with you because you built the relationship. You weren't pushy. You weren't like in my face all the time, right? It was a matter of building a relationship and just telling them, hey, this new thing is so then it's on their timing, right? So it's not about you and what your next sale is. It's about what problem are you solving for that person. And
Exactly.
so.
And I mean, I think it's about relationships. I love automation. I think that I use automation a lot in my things, but people know when they're getting an automated response, whether it's just here's my card, hi, and they give you their little 30-second pitch and they move on to the next person. You're like, okay, you didn't even like, we didn't connect as a human. You were just there for your agenda versus, somebody that actually asked me, do you have pets? Do you have like something that's just different? I think it matters to have that show that you actually care about them as a human and that you feel like you have something that would be valuable to them, or maybe they have something that would be valuable to you, but you need to make that connection as a human. Because nobody likes to be sold to or to be like, I don't know, kind of talked like just treated like a, like a game piece. Like, here's my,
number,
I was told I have to give my card to 30 people. So here's my card. Like, out of those 30 people, 3 people are going to contact me. Well, how about if you have a conversation with 5 people and 3 people still contact you, and those 3 people are then ready to do something, whether it's refer you to somebody that they know or whether it's to actually hire you, in their service. And you always have to think outside of the box as far as who your power partners are, because I tell this story all the time. Colleen's heard it 100 times. My best power partner ever in my 35 years of being a professional photographer was this like 8-year span where I had a carpet cleaner, and every time he would clean a home that had, of someone that was pregnant, he would like, you got to go to my business at the time was Portraits by Peggy. It's Headshots by Peggy now, but it was Portraits by Peggy. I did families and babies. Got to go over there. She does maternity, newborn, 3 months, 6 months, and I'm in senior. Got to go over there. And same thing. Every time I had somebody that was, with a new family come into my studio, I'd be like, got to get those carpets cleaned. You got little ones running around. Here's my carpet cleaner. And we sent each other so much business in that like span of time. It was something that if we were in a meeting and you would be like, Peggy, who are your power partners? I would have never in a million years thought.
I wouldn't necessarily be the one.
Never in a million years. But in all of my years, that was literally the best power. Like, I've had a bunch of people that we refer each other to and that have given me lots of business. But this particular, and I think it stands out too because it was so random to me. It's like, that is so weird. And plus, he cleaned my studio carpets.
Right? You made a connection. There was mutual respect with both people, and and then that's why it worked, right? So.
Yeah. So I think and had I not ever really talked to him, we would have never figured out that we could be so beneficial to each other. That he could send me so many people and I could send him so many people. Like, we would have never thought of that, but we thought of that because in conversation, he realized, hey, I clean a lot of people's carpets that are getting ready to have babies. Like, they want to get their house clean before the baby comes. And, so it was,
and I think what you touched on is that you figured out the language, or that you figured out the situation, right? So it was easy for you to like, I call it like the bell goes off, right? So as if you say, oh, when you see somebody who's pregnant, that's a clue, right? And then of course, and then you have somebody who's like, oh, the clue is, they have a baby, they have carpets that, might need to be cleaned, right? So
Yeah.
if you can empower your partners to be able to listen for those clues, whether it's visual clues or verbal clues, when someone is saying something, that helps so much, right? Because it's like, oh, well, when I see this, then I can do that. And you don't have to, it's not like always thinking of, oh, well, who can I send to so and so, or because I know a lot of people are in like the category exclusive type networking, where they are the pseudo salesperson for the people. So they're always kind of supposed to be listening and doing that. But if you don't give them the right tools to do that, it makes it hard. And I go to networking all the time, and people will say, oh, anybody with skin, and I'm like, oh my God, like, that just doesn't do you any good. It's like you're wasting your words in doing that. It's, you need to like have a picture of somebody that I'm like, oh, wait, they're in my phone, right? And let me give you their number or something, or let me do an introduction for you, because you can think of that person and comes up. And, you can always expand something, right? So it's like, oh, I'm looking for, maybe teachers might be a good, they want to get headshots and stuff. So you might be, oh, I'm thinking of teachers at, Urbana Elementary. Well, someone might say, well, I don't know anyone at that school, but I know something at my daughter's elementary school, right? So that way, they can think about it. Or like sports photography, right? There's a lot of, people who do sports photography and things like that. So you might say, well, I'm looking for a lacrosse team to do it. Well, I don't have a lacrosse team, but my kid plays baseball. So would that work? So it's easier for your brain to switch versus going, I'm looking for anyone who plays sports. Okay, they can't narrow it down, so.
That I always say, the more specific you are, the more broad you're going to reach, because when you're very specific, when you give people a very, very narrow framework of what you do and what you're looking for, then they're going to see that picture clear. And then they're going to say, oh, and what about this? Oh, and what about that? And what about that? But when you just throw out something broad, then they can't see anything, because it's too overwhelming. So they don't know where you fit. But if you tell them I fit right here, then they'll be like, oh, how about this? How about this? How about this? And you're like, oh yeah, that works.
I do that too.
So you have to really narrow it down.
Like, even after doing 20 plus, years of networking and stuff, that I feel like that's one of the hardest things for people to really lock on to, because it's that, but if I don't, they won't know, right? If I say this and I can do something over here and they have that, they won't know. But it like you said, Peggy, it will really expand. Like and especially like if you get really good at one thing, that's like, I have a lot of tools in my toolbox, right? That I've gathered through the years, and that help people build connections and relationships. And whether it's, meeting a particular person or a tool or a resource or things. And it wasn't until I really focused on like falling in love with follow-up that it really start to take momentum, because all the tools are in the program. But when I was trying to explain the tools to people, they were getting lost, right? They just couldn't get it, right? And that's the other thing, is like when you're in networking, you have to be focused on one thing, even if you do lots of things. So like for a photographer, I mean, maybe you do weddings, maybe you do headshots, you do, there's like 5 categories of different types. But when you go to a networking event, especially like if it's the first time, you should like pick one, say, I do this. And then the next time you go, you can say, I also do this, and do it, because that way you're trickling it on them, but they can focus on the one thing. If you say, I do this and this and this and this, and they're like, okay, I'm confused and I can't buy now because they're confused. They don't know what to do. I know back originally when I was doing this, I was selling a product. baskets and
Mhm.
things. And I'm like, oh, I have all these options you can do and stuff. And I mean, I did sell some, but it's like looking back now, I'm like, oh, I did that all wrong. I should have made 3 different styles and sold 3 different things, right? I always tell
Mhm.
people, if you have a tangible product, take it to the networking. If you can, so photographer, take samples of what you're doing, take, some different samples and things like that. Show people your work. If they can see it, touch it, they're like, oh, well, and then, it's so much easier to do that. That's why I was like, if someone has a tangible product, I was always saying, bring that, or make, if you can be unique about it, a realtor or something, you could bring a little house, or you can bring, a mortgage person can bring dollar bills or something, fake ones or real ones, whatever you want, but it's like, here, this is what I do. I give people money. Right. Make it something so that they can remember it by, have some kind of unique tagline so that people are like, oh, wait a minute, I know them. Rhyming is really good.
Well, that's where the whole time benders came from, was when I was doing portrait photography, people would say, "What do you do?" And I said, "I sell time travel." Because
Yeah.
everybody's a photographer, right? But I sell time travel was one of those things they'd be like, "What?" And I go, "Yeah, I capture your most important memories and allow you to travel back and visit them anytime you want."
Yeah.
And that was a conversation starter. Plus, they remembered it versus like, the
Mhm.
20 photographers they met that week. They
Yep.
remembered the person that sold time travel. And so you have to really think about, you know, just something to be memorable about. I think
Mhm.
it's important to stand out, and just walking up to people and handing them your business card and saying I'm a photographer, that's not going to do it. You've got to build relationships and make yourself stand out as somebody that they want to know, somebody that they want to remember, somebody that they want to refer, somebody that they want to work with.
Yeah, that old know, like, trust, and we have remember now, right? So
Yeah.
it's really helping people to understand that, yes, they might know you, they might trust you, but if they don't, remember you when they need your service, it's not going to matter, right? They're going to go to the next person that was there. So that's why you find realtors have to stay top of mind all the time. You always get something in the mail or something from, is because they know when you're ready to sell the house, you're ready, and they need to be the one that you think about, So
Right.
same with, like, photographers. You, like, when people get married and they're doing it, they're going to think of the ones that are closest to them. If they met you 2 years ago and you haven't kept that relationship going, they're not going to remember that they met you, even if you were like, oh my God, we're so great, kind of.
Right, you've got to touch their heart, because if you don't touch their heart, you're just another person.
Yep.
If you're not memorable, if you haven't given them something that's authentic to grab onto, you'll just be another business card in their stack.
Yeah, and I used to have the business portfolio, right? The whole thing. So when we were, working with people, like, oh, well, here's my, like you had yours on the cork board and mine was in like a binder. And I'm like, oh, well, here, look at my binder, flip through, see if you need any services. I'll make the introduction, So.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah. Okay, so leave our audience with one tip, how to really network in a wise, way that's an effective way for photographers.
I think we touched on it. So I think it's really about being unique, and then once you've made that connection and you're unique about it, is to remember to follow up with it. So and to build that relationship. And when I say follow up, I really mean looking at building that relationship, because I look at follow up as just the next connection to build that relationship. It's not necessarily I'm following up to see if they're ready to buy. It's I'm following up, I'm connecting with them to see what their need is right now. Their need may be just to say hi and continue that relationship. But at some point, their need will be, I need a photographer, right? Or I know somebody. So I think that's really, we talked about, like, being unique, finding the right rooms is another thing we didn't touch on too much, but it's like, making sure you're in the right networking rooms, be unique, and then make sure you follow up to build that relationship.
I want to kind of brag on you a little bit. So I've known you for a few years now, and you work with a company called Send Out Cards, and you one time, and we we know each other. We hang out a lot in a workspace, in a virtual workspace, because you're on the East Coast, I'm on the West Coast. But regardless, I got a couple of cards from you, and some of them were just like, little fun cards. And one time, out of the blue, you sent me a just thinking of you card. And it had a little butterfly in it because I love butterflies. And it had a package of daisy seeds in it because I love daisies. And I was like, I must have just like, I don't tell everybody like I love daisies and I love butterflies. Like that's not just like super common knowledge, but you heard that and you just sent that to me out of the blue, and you had no way to know, but like I was kind of having a rough week. And when I got that, it just meant so much. And this spring I planted those daisies and I'm like, these are Colleen's daisies. Like, these are Colleen's daisies.
They always seem that way, right? People say, you send cards and it's like, we just send them to send them, right? It's just send them when that person pops in your head is kind of the thing. And
that's part of building relationships.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be a card. It can be a text message. It can be like, hey, I was thinking about you. How are you doing? What's going on with blah, blah, blah. And the trick that I do is when I get somebody's, and I started doing this a long time ago, because I had a package. It was called the Watch Me Grow package. So I had families that came in maternity, newborn, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and a year. So I had a lot of families in this program. And so they were calling me, I would see them every 3 months. And of course they thought we were best friends because, you watch their family grow. But I have, 12 families a month that I'm seeing every month. And, I see them every 4 months. And so I started writing down in my phone, like the baby's name, the baby's birth date, anything that would happen during the session that was funny, I would put notes down. So when they would call, I would pull up their contacts. And as I'm like, hey, so-and-so, I would be reading through my notes and I would be like, so did you guys get that dog you were talking about? Blah, 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 so that they, that I could keep them feeling important, that they were, and it wasn't that they're not important. It was just that there were so many people. There's no way I could have remembered all the details for each person.
But you took an interest, right? And that was the thing, is like you made the effort to record it, right? So it's a way to trigger those memories, in your mind, and a CRM or wherever you record it, in your phone or a notebook or something, so that you had access to that information, which then made them feel more important.
It made them feel, and I have to assume that at some point I said something about butterflies or something about daisies, and you probably just jotted it down. Who knows? Like, I don't know, but I would assume, because I would do that, and it's so important because it made me feel so special. Yeah. I was like, Colleen loves me.
Yeah, I know.
This is so special, which Colleen does love me. But, when you take the time to remember the little details about your clients, it really, really, it makes them feel so loyal to you, because they feel that like closeness. And that makes them like, oh, wow. And even if they're not your client, but if there's somebody that you're building a relationship with, if you remember things about them, then it really makes a difference. I was interning in 1989. I know some of you watching this probably weren't even born then.
I remember 1989.
Right? So I was interning, and the photographer that I interned with said straight up, like, if you see one of my clients at the grocery store and you don't say hi to them by name, like, you're fired. Like, he required that we knew all of the clients and all of their names. And that was not like something that came natural to me. And he made us listen to like Zig Ziglar or something like for 10 minutes every day before we started work. And we would look at the pictures and we would have to say the client's name out loud. Like when we were working on proofing and when we were working on cropping negatives, we had to say that their name out loud so that name. So when they walked through the studio, because back in the day they came, we had a big reception area, you know. And when they came in, we'd be like, oh, hey, so-and-so, like immediately we would know. And if we saw them in the grocery store, you know, we were always supposed to address them by name because he knew the power of connection. And so that it's a real thing like that, you know, networking and building relationships and following up. It's so important. So important. So Colleen's information is going to be in the description. Colleen does Fall in Love with Follow-Up, and you really should check it out. And if you're taking the Headshot Strategist certification program, you already know Colleen because she is one of the amazing instructors that gives us lessons and stuff. So if you're already doing that, you already know Colleen. But if not, I'm glad that you got to meet her today and jump on and take her 14 days level 1 for free and realize the power of follow-up, because she is definitely like going to blow your mind on how easy it can be. Colleen, thank you. Thank you.
Right? Gotta make it fun, right? So
it's got to be fun. I so appreciate it, Colleen. Thank you so much.
You so much, Peggy.
All right. Bye, guys.